I detest alphas who reek of self-satisfaction, those who let their genetic advantage atrophy into indolence. I am also repulsed by the omegas who fall at my feet, their minds clouded by instinct. Then I met him, 3 years ago, adrift in the disorienting fog of a hostile world. He moved like a phantom in a black compression suit, his face obscured by wraps. No scent emanated from him, a blank slate in a world saturated with phenomenal noise. He was a beta. He was also lethal, dispatching A-class threats with a silent, brutal efficiency. I suggested we cooperate. He spoke, his voice clearer and warmer than I anticipated, telling me alphas were rutting beasts and he worked alone. He refused my offer. I wanted to argue that I was different, but the chaos in my own blood was a testament against me. We parted ways. The second time our paths crossed, I proposed an alliance again. He declined. The third time he was cornered, facing an S-class creature alone. His hand, desperate, finally gripped my wrist, a silent plea for partnership. He had no scent of his own, but the moment he touched me, he became saturated with mine. He was stronger than I ever imagined, a born assassin who moved through the world unseen. He never showed weakness, never cried out in pain, shouldering every burden himself. I watched blood well from a deep gash on his arm and questioned why he hadn't asked for my help. His response was cold, insisting he could handle it. An unfamiliar irritation flared within me. By the time my unit regrouped 3 days later, I realized I'd never asked for his name, never challenged him to the fight I craved. He had already vanished, a ghost on a mission. The frustration of that missed confrontation lingered. It had to be the reason for my annoyance. I initiated a search, gathering intel on every noteworthy beta. One by one, I found them and tested them. Each fell with a single punch. None of them were him. I should have disregarded his injuries back then and demanded our duel. 3 years passed. News reached me of a beta in Ethelberg who had achieved an A-level threat rating, the only one of his kind. It had to be him. I contacted a fixer, a headhunter in the city's underbelly, and inquired what this man valued most. The answer was simple: CRS. Money was a language I spoke fluently, a resource I had in infinite supply. I made an offer so substantial it couldn't be refused, securing a meeting, determined to finally settle the score. His name was Caleb. He arrived in casual attire, his face clean-shaven, his stride unwavering. The moment I saw him, my heart hammered against my ribs with a force that stole my breath. I wanted to ask if he remembered me. He simply walked forward and lifted his shirt. My gaze fell upon the landscape of his torso, a tapestry of scars, old and new. A strange, possessive ache spread through my chest. The desire to fight him evaporated, replaced by something else entirely. I realized then that I hadn't just wanted to find him. I had missed him. I resented his relentless drive for self-improvement, his inability to stay in one place. I resented that his world was filled with missions and not with me. I was trapped. I buried my face against his chest, finally understanding my own heart. I wanted to claim him. As if sensing my intent, he murmured a request for me to get on with it. He wanted it over quickly. In that case, I would not be gentle. My lover is a beta. He cannot smell my pheromones or perceive my emotional state through scent. It doesn't matter. I love him. I offered a mercenary a fortune for one night, a man who, out of fury or desperation, booked me for 100 in return. I am a federal colonel, but I am also a beta. While alphas may look down on us, I've always been inexplicably popular among omegas. When the headhunter contacted me again, I assumed another wronged omega was seeking retribution. The fixer, however, clarified that the client was an alpha. I was notorious in alpha circles. My mere presence was enough to draw omegas away from them, turning nearly every alpha into a rival. The client had specifically requested an A-level mercenary who was also a beta. On this planet, I was the only one who fit the description. The fixer informed me the payout for this single contract was 100,000 CRS. The sum was staggering. Even clearing a nest of biohorrors outside the city barely paid 8,000. I wondered if this alpha was some spurned fool, an oligarch whose Omega fiancé had left him for someone like me. It was plausible. The line of Omegas who had broken engagements because of me could stretch from the financial district to the docks. The fixer admitted it was a possibility but asked if I would take the job. I accepted. The money was too good to refuse. My younger brother, Aaron, was in the ICU, his medical bills costing 10,000 CRS a day. I was desperate. The fixer advised me to clean up a bit before I went. I went home, shaved, and showered. I swapped my tactical compression suit for casual clothes, a loose shirt that revealed my midsection with a simple lift. I figured it would save the client the trouble of undressing me and ensure his fists found their mark. I arrived at the designated address, a penthouse suite that cost 8,888 CRS a night. The alpha security guard who led me there was surprisingly polite, opening the door for me. I was unaccustomed to such courtesy from an alpha. Before I could thank him, the door clicked shut behind me. A chill ran down my spine. On the sofa sat a man whose presence filled the room, and my mind went blank. It was Colonel Damien, the decorated war hero, the subject of countless Omega fantasies. That explained the non-disclosure agreement. In person, his aura was even more formidable than on the holovids, sharp enough to cut. Rumor had it he could fell an S-class monster with one punch. I questioned whether I would survive a beating from him. His voice was a low rumble, commanding me to approach. I had come this far. I walked to him, closed my eyes, and lifted my shirt, ready for the inevitable. I told him I wasn't wearing any protection, that he could strike wherever he pleased. He seemed amused by my eagerness and asked if I was in a hurry. I confirmed that I was and urged him to get to the point. I thought I saw a flicker of a smile on his lips before his calloused fingers traced a path up my side, pressing into my waist before moving higher. A wave of shame and anger washed over me. I urged him to be quick. His voice dropped lower as he exhaled, asking just how fast I wanted it. I told him the faster, the better. Then he removed my pants. I was bewildered. I couldn't believe a decorated colonel had a fetish for beating men naked. But the expected blows never came. Instead, I felt something else press against me. I demanded to know what he was doing. He stated simply that he was going to have me. Confusion warred within me. I thought this was a beatdown. I made it clear that my services did not extend to sex. I couldn't comprehend why a prime alpha like Damien would be interested in me rather than repulsed. Just as he was about to cross the final threshold, he paused, his breath hot on my chest. He asked if I was certain I wouldn't sell. I glanced at the powerful physique beneath his robe and hesitated. I told him it would cost more. He offered 200,000 CRS. When I paused for 2 seconds, he immediately raised it to 500,000. I accepted. A man in his state would agree to anything. He pushed me down, informing me that since I had agreed, he wouldn't give me a chance to back out. The following morning, my legs felt like jelly as I stumbled out of bed. My neck was covered in bite marks. My hands trembled as I dressed. After confirming the 50,000 CRS had been transferred to my account, I fled the penthouse. In the hallway, I passed a few alphas who recoiled from me, complaining that even a prime alpha shouldn't walk around drenched in pheromones. I wanted to explain that I had been steeped in them all night, but I didn't know how. It was my understanding that an alpha only released such a potent amount of pheromones to claim their mate. I took a cab to the hospital and paid for a month of my brother's care, instructing the staff to use the best treatments available. I asked about the cost of prosthetic limbs. The nurse told me that basic models started at 1 million CRS, with advanced ones costing 3. She also reminded me of the outstanding 5 million CR debt for his initial surgery. Money vanished in this place. I was about to contact the fixer for more work when a new contact request appeared on my comms. It was Damien. My first thought was that he'd had second thoughts and wanted his money back. But his message was simple, asking why I had left without a word. I hesitated, then replied that I was at the hospital visiting my brother. He acknowledged my message. Just as I was putting my device away, he sent another message, asking how he could book my services again. He said he still needed me. I found it strange. Alphas were supposed to prefer soft, fragrant omegas. I was just a plain, scentless beta. But the money was extraordinary. A night of being used was far easier than hunting monsters, even if my body ached. I replied that it would be the same price as yesterday and that he could just transfer the funds. He asked if there was a limit on the number of sessions. I told him there was none. 10 minutes later, my account balance increased by 50 million CRS. At 500,000 per session, that was 100 sessions. I retracted my earlier thought that he was polite. I sent him a message, subtly reminding him that he had been rather rough and I was still sore. He replied that he had a doctor at his residence and I should come over to be examined. I tried another excuse, explaining I needed to care for my brother. He countered by offering to have Aaron transferred to the military hospital with a dedicated private nurse. He had blocked every escape route. I conceded that I would come over that evening. He seemed to be waiting. Something felt off, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I delayed until late evening before going to Damien's lavish villa. He showed no annoyance at my tardiness. He had a gourmet dinner prepared and had already arranged for Aaron's hospital transfer. I felt I had no reason to refuse him. His stamina at night was insatiable. I could barely get out of bed in the morning, yet he would rise early for meetings at the military headquarters. I once asked him if all alphas were like him. I had fought hundreds of alphas and never encountered one so resilient and energetic. He paused while buttoning his shirt, then stated it was because he had an illness. He explained he had pheromone dysregulation syndrome. Any omega who came near him was inadvertently harmed by his uncontrolled pheromones, so he could only be with betas. But most betas were not as physically robust as alphas. I was the only one who could withstand him. I realized I was just a tool for his treatment. This arrangement felt precarious. I couldn't rely on one person. I contacted the fixer. The fixer had a major job for me. The client was an omega who specifically requested a beta mercenary and refused to work with any alphas. It was a perfect fit. The omega's name was Janice, a brilliant biologist whose work I had long admired. I accepted immediately. In preparation, I spent my days training in Damien's virtual combat simulator and my nights declining his advances, claiming the doctor had advised me to rest. He didn't press the issue, only offering to apply medicine for me. I refused and moved into a guest room. Fortunately, Damien had to leave on a business trip, giving us both a 3-day reprieve. After 3 days, I met Janice at his starship. He was a refined, scholarly young man, and I was immediately captivated. As I approached to greet him, a chilling voice came from behind me. It was Damien, remarking on how I was resting in front of an omega. It was just my luck to be caught moonlighting by my primary client. Janice, unafraid, stepped in front of me, asserting that he had hired me as his bodyguard and that even if Damien was his arranged fiancé, he had no right to interfere. I was momentarily stunned but quickly recovered. Janice was a prime omega and a renowned biologist. Damien was a federal colonel. Their phenomenal compatibility was over 80%. A political marriage made sense. Damien seemed to be losing control of his pheromones again. Though I couldn't smell them, the other omegas present were visibly affected. Janice covered his mouth and nose, stumbling into my arms. I admonished Damien to get his pheromones under control. I carried Janice back to his ship and stayed by his side. When we docked at a supply station, I saw the agitated alphas outside and remembered Damien's condition. I hesitated, then decided to check on him. The moment I entered his room, he pinned me against the door, demanding to know why I had ignored his messages. I checked my comms and saw a string of texts. He had asked about my relationship with Janice and why I had taken an outside contract. He claimed he wasn't angry, just asking. Then he asked why I hadn't replied, if I felt guilty. A few minutes later, another message came, admitting he knew Omegas found me attractive and that it was fine if I had a relationship with Janice. But he asked if I would still come home after the mission was over. Another message followed, apologizing for his pheromone outburst. Finally, he had asked what Janice and I were doing together. I landed a punch on his jaw, asking him why he cared when Janice was his fiancée. Damien caught my fist, stating that he had refused the arrangement. I was shocked and asked why. He said Janice was too weak. I couldn't believe he would reject someone as brilliant, beautiful, and kind as Janice. Damien scoffed, asking if I was interested and offering to arrange a marriage for me. I fell silent. I knew the difference between admiration and love. I admired Janice for rising from obscurity to become the planet's foremost biologist. Besides, as a wandering mercenary, I couldn't offer an Omega a future. Damien, however, seemed to misunderstand my silence. He overpowered my struggling fist, telling me that he could give me a future. He stepped closer, something hard pressing against me. I asked if his illness was acting up. Damien was all too familiar with my body, but now was not the time. I offered to help him with my hand. He didn't refuse. As my hand worked, his broad chest half enclosed me, his breathing growing heavier. The damned muscle memory was taking over. He whispered in my ear that scans showed no monster activity nearby, that I could relax for a day. The result of relaxing was his hand on my waist. I was about to give in when Janice's voice cried out from outside, "Of monsters." I immediately pulled away from Damien and rushed out. We were in a high-risk zone, and the creatures were all A-class or higher. I could handle them one at a time, but they were swarming, and soon an S-class creature appeared. Damien's squad dealt with the A-class threats, but they were powerless against the S-class. As its massive tail swung towards Janice, I pushed him aside, preparing to take the blow. But a hand shot out, catching the tail and leaving a deep palm print in its scaly hide. Damien ordered me to stay put and charged into the fray. The sky lit up with explosions. His squad watched in awe, remarking that the colonel seemed to be in a particularly foul mood. Damien finished the battle in 10 minutes. As he stood amidst the carnage, Janice rushed to him, not out of concern, but to collect samples of the S-class creature's blood and bone marrow, calling it a shame to waste them. I felt a strange sense of relief. After that incident, I avoided all physical contact with Damien. He said nothing, focusing solely on his duties. 3 days later, the mission ended. Janice bid me farewell, lamenting that Damien's efficiency meant our time together was cut short. I smiled and told him I was available for any future missions. When I turned, Damien's face was a thundercloud. That night, he was relentless, his actions bordering on hateful. 2 days later, he had to attend a gala for the corporate elite, finally giving me a reprieve. The moment he left, I contacted the fixer, confirming that everything was ready. The fixer sighed, telling me my plan for revenge was a suicide mission. My brother, an Omega, had been assaulted by a group of wealthy alphas. They destroyed his glands and crippled him. For months, I had been taking on missions and building a network of contacts. I finally had a chance to get into the same event as those monsters. At the entrance, I presented the invitation Janice had given me. Once inside, I searched for my targets. Before I could find them, I felt the cold muzzle of an S-grade military pistol pressed against my back. A security officer demanded to know who I was. As I weighed my options, I saw Damien across the room, surrounded by sycophants. Even without expression, he stood out. I called out to him, claiming someone was harassing me. Damien's icy expression flickered when he saw me. He strode over, ignoring his admirers. The security officer's bravado vanished. Damien casually draped an arm around my waist and led me upstairs, kicking open a room and pushing me inside. He tore open my suit jacket, revealing the compression gear beneath. His fingers hooked the edge of the suit. He asked where I was hurt. I caught his hand, telling him I was fine and had just used him as an excuse. His expression hardened. He pushed me onto a table and unbuckled his belt. He ordered me to bend over. I refused. This was a gala hosted by the chairwoman herself. I tried to placate him, rubbing the calluses on my thumb against his palm, admitting I was wrong. He traced the lines of my shoulder blades with the belt, asking how I had gotten in. I told him the truth, that it was payment from Janice. Damien sneered, asking if I knew who this event was for. I knew it was a celebration in his honor. He asked why, then, I had gone to Janice for an invitation. I could feel his anger radiating. He demanded to know if I had anything else to say. I honestly replied that I did not. The beating that followed was not the kind I had expected. His inventiveness was infuriating. My suit was ruined. Just as he was about to continue, his aide knocked on the door, informing him that the chairwoman had summoned him. He pulled up my pants but used his belt to strap me to the table, telling me to wait for his return. I escaped, of course. I was an A-level mercenary. A simple lock was no match for me. I slipped out the window. From my vantage point, I saw him, the alpha who had destroyed my brother's life and served a mere month in confinement. I disassembled the decorative pieces on my compression suit, assembling them into a miniature pistol. I dropped to a lower balcony and, amidst the music, fired 2 silent rounds into his legs and a third that grazed his gland. He ruined my brother, so I ruined him. His screams finally alerted the crowd. I tried to blend into the chaos, but federal security locked onto me within minutes. I didn't run. I surrendered. This was part of my plan. The federal prison held the other 3 men responsible. In prison, I was placed in the maximum security wing. As a commoner, I was fitted with heavy shackles. The 3 alpha aristocrats I was after wore none and enjoyed special privileges. They spotted me and laughed, choosing me as their punching bag for the night. When the guards brought me to them, I cracked my neck and smiled. The moment the ropes fell away, I attacked. I broke their faces, then used the buckles from their belts to slice their femoral arteries. I broke the legs of the one who had broken Aaron's. I carved insults into the skin of the one who had tattooed my brother. I ruptured the gland of the one who had destroyed Aaron's. They howled in agony. The guards rushed in, stunned. The next day, I was released from solitary confinement. The 3 of them, one in a wheelchair, another in a neck brace, and the third on a gurney, came to gloat. They confirmed they now knew I was Aaron's brother and that they had hired A-level alpha mercenaries to kill me. They didn't seem to realize that I had clawed my way to my A-level status by defeating countless alphas just like them. 10 minutes later, their hired guns were unconscious on the floor. As I resumed my beating, the main gate was kicked open. It was Damien. The 3 pigs thought their families had sent him. Damien ignored them, placing a hand on my shoulder, his presence a shield against the world. He looked down at them and said, "You said he had no one." I am his backing. In the warden's office, Damien reviewed my file. I spoke first, explaining that the 3 were due for release in 2 days and this was my only chance. He replied instantly, asking if that justified putting myself in danger. I said it wasn't that dangerous, and that I didn't want to cause him any trouble. After all, he just saw me as a remedy for his condition. He interrupted me, questioning my use of the word remedy. I recounted his explanation that omegas couldn't handle his pheromones and that he could only be with betas. His brow furrowed. He said he had never slept with a beta before me. He had only used them as sparring partners. I was stunned. I asked him why he had slept with me, then. He didn't answer directly, but stepped closer, cornering me against the wall. His intense gaze fixed on mine. For the first time, I truly looked into his deep blue eyes. In a world where alphas were born superior, I never expected anyone to truly see me. But he was seeing me. My throat was dry as I asked if he pitied me. He shook his head. "No," he said. "I love you. After the warden's surveillance system experienced a long and convenient malfunction, Damien led me out of the office. My legs were unsteady. I told him we needed to stick to simpler routines in the future. He squeezed the back of my neck, saying that was only if I was willing to take shortcuts. I decided then that I would take every shortcut he offered. The next day, I was on Damien's starship, leaving the prison far behind. He said he had veto power over my sentence. We arrived at the military hospital. Aaron was standing. He had prosthetic legs. Tears filled my eyes. As I moved to hug him, Janice pushed me away, complaining about the alpha pheromones clinging to me. I quickly explained they were Damien's, not mine. Janice shot Damien a resentful look, asking why, of all the betas in the world, he had to take mine. Damien wrapped his arm around my shoulder, stating that I was the only beta he saw. Janice, the gentle professor, actually swore under his breath. He then shooed me out of the room, explaining that Aaron's damaged glands were extremely sensitive to alpha pheromones. Outside, Damien apologized for causing me to be scorned. I embraced him, realizing how much he had endured for me. He murmured that I would have to comfort him properly tonight. A fortnight later, the 4 alphas who had crippled my brother faced a military tribunal. With evidence gathered by Damien and a medical assessment from Janice, they were sentenced to death. It was a message to the entire galaxy. After the trial, Aaron left with Janice, telling me to live my own life, free from the burden of revenge. He planned to study under Janice. A private transport sent by Damien arrived for me. A note said I was to choose the restaurant. I stared at the galactic map on the ship's holodeck, my mind drifting back to the warden's office. I had asked him what there was to love about me. He told me about our first meeting 3 years ago, how he'd been searching for me ever since, frustrated that he had never gotten the fight he wanted. He admitted that his original plan was to challenge me, but seeing me again had changed his mind. A fight was no longer enough. He wanted to possess me completely. A message from Janice interrupted my thoughts. The chairwoman was arranging a marriage for Damien with Prince Wesley of the Volkov hegemony, a prime omega with a 90% pheromonal match. I knew Damien's scent was described by others as being like gin, bitter and sharp. I had never smelled it. A hand reached over my shoulder, selecting a restaurant on the map, telling me not to worry about the cost. It was Damien. He looked normal, but I asked him directly if a new Omega would soon be taking my place on this ship. He looked up from the menu he was reviewing and told me he had refused the Volkov offer. His heart, which had been constricted with a sudden fear, finally relaxed. I had underestimated his love. He didn't want an Omega no matter the compatibility score. He wanted only me. Prince Wesley, however, was persistent. His supporters started a campaign online, calling him and Damien a perfect match. Then I received a message from Wesley himself. He reminded me that I had once been his mercenary, hired to assassinate his older brother. I had completed that task. But when he asked me to kill his second brother, I refused, finding no fault in the man. Instead, I had merely incapacitated him, marring my perfect success record. Wesley had offered to make me his royal consort then, an offer I had declined. He had been searching for me for 2 years. He told me he was now considering both me and Damien as candidates for his consort, but that he preferred me. The next day, Damien announced our relationship to the entire Federation. Alphas lamented that their greatest colonel had fallen for their collective rival. Omegas mourned that their favorite Alpha and their favorite Beta were together. Wesley was furious, messaging us both, accusing Damien of faking a relationship with a scentless Beta just to avoid a political marriage. Before I could ponder his threats, Damien pulled me back into his world, complaining that my mind was elsewhere and he clearly wasn't trying hard enough. At the chairwoman's next gala, Damien introduced me to the political elite. Many of them were former clients, their faces pale with anxiety. They knew I held their secrets. One by one, they approached me, quietly offering double wedding gifts in exchange for my continued silence. Suddenly, A commotion erupted. People cried out that Colonel Damien's pheromones were running wild, that he was having an attack. I pushed through the crowd to find Damien pinning Wesley to the floor, his hands tight around the prince's throat. Wesley was gasping, explaining that his pheromones could soothe Damien, that his people had developed a gene therapy for pheromone dysregulation syndrome. Damien, lost in a feral rage, only tightened his grip. I intervened, prying his fingers away and holding his trembling body. He buried his face in my shoulder, his voice ragged, begging me not to see him as a mindless beast. I took him away, and for 7 days and nights, I stayed with him through his phenomenal fever. In his brief moments of lucidity, he would see the marks on my body and his eyes would fill with tears, whispering apologies. I held him and told him it was all right, that I was willing. He never blamed me for being unable to smell his scent, and I would never blame him for the illness that caused him to lose control. After the fever broke, I met with Wesley as planned. He gave me the gene therapy, as promised in exchange for my agreement to become his consort. I took it and boarded the ship to the Volkov hegemony. My first 3 days as his consort were a series of failed attempts on his part to seduce, coerce, and drug me. He grew frustrated, demanding to know why I wouldn't let him touch me when I had already agreed to the arrangement. I asked why he hadn't given me the gene therapy yet, if it was because he feared I would run. His silence was an admission. I told him he didn't trust me. To prove me wrong, he had the gene therapy delivered to me immediately. That same day I ran. He pursued me to a cliff's edge, his troops closing in. Just as I was weighing my options, alarms blared across the sky. A fleet of federal warships appeared, led by Damien's flagship. His voice boomed across their comms network, demanding my immediate return or he would annihilate their world. Wesley's political support evaporated in an instant. He stared at me, then at the fleet, screaming that we had conspired to fool him. But it wasn't a conspiracy. I had left Damien a simple note: "Be right back." I pointed behind Wesley. His second brother, the one I had spared, walked toward him, having made a deal with me for information on where to find more of the gene therapy. I walked up the ramp of Damien's ship. He sat on the sofa holding the note. He asked how I could call this taking a shortcut. I sat on his lap, my arms around his neck, and asked him how else he wanted me to take it. The words of reprimand died on his lips. He was easy to please in some ways. A single kiss and his anger subsided. But he was also stubborn, refusing to let me go on any more solo missions. For now, that was a battle for another time. I have always loved money. With money, I could have had a home instead of digging through trash in the slums. With money, I might have saved my parents. With money, Aaron could have had the best education, a life free from the dangers I faced. But I was a nomad, destined to wander, and I could never give an Omega the future they deserved. Then I met Damien. With him, I didn't have to do anything. I was the one being cared for. It was a strange, unsettling, yet deeply satisfying feeling. He once complained that I wasn't dependent enough on him. I could be lazy with him, be weak, even be vulnerable. I was corrupted utterly and completely. I decided to love him and only him,